Hello, I am doing my lab report on the retention and transfer test lab that we did for lab 8.2. And my name is Shane Seahose, and we're going to get started. So, with our intro here, motor learning is a set of processes used to be practiced to be able to gain permanent gains in capability and skilled performance. Although learning is not able to be directly observed, there are ways it can be inferred, and those ways include practicing a skill and then using different tests like retention that comes from the same conditions and a transfer which comes from different conditions tests to see if learning was gained while looking at performance curves measuring practice time. Although tests can help infer learning, a key component to make sure that learning is permanent and not temporary is by using breaks in between trials and using longer breaks before performing those tests. This allows time for the testee to forget practice and catches learning that is permanent, which is the best way to infer that learning is occurring. So, for the purpose of this lab, we wanted to show the relationship between performance and learning through utilizing practice and retention and transfer tests to observe that permanent learning took place. So, what we did for this lab was in our motor learning class at CWI, we used aggregated results from those college students, but we had participants toss two bean bags underhand with their non dominant hand and with feet 9 degrees to a marked line towards the marked X 5 meters away, where distance from the X is recorded. So participants started by marking an X on the ground and then marking the line 5 big steps away. Participants were instructed to stand with feet 90 degrees to that line. Participants tossed two bean bags aiming to the X on the ground in front of them using their non-dominant hand. And then participants completed 40 trials with 1 minute breaks after 10 trials and a 5 minute break after 40 trials. Recorders are instructed to measure the center of the bean bag to the center of the X to determine distance. After 5 minute break, then a 10 trial retention test is performed at the same distance, and then after that a 1 minute break, and then a transfer test is performed with 10 trials at 1 meter further away. Results that we saw: the constant error, or the CE, we did notice from block 1 to the retention test changed 6.06 centimeters, with that block 1 being 19.54 going to 13.48. We also noticed that CE decreased from block 1 in the transfer test by 1.14 centimeters, with that transfer test being 18.4. And you can go and see in table 1 and figure 1 that show the CE values and the trend through practice in both tests. We also saw that the VE, or the variable error, decreased 8.63 centimeters from block 1 of 27.52 centimeters to the retention test of 18.89 centimeters, and then also decreased only by 0.54 from block 1 to the transfer test of 26.98. You can also see in table and figure 2 that shows the VE values and the trend through practice and in both of those as well. Now, the nitty gritty here. In this lab, we expected learning to be observed while practicing tossing bean bags at targets and then using a retention and transfer test, which we were able to observe throughout practice and with our two tests. Some things that we did see while performing this experiment with, and then looking at aggregated results as well, was learning was tested with retention and transfer tests while utilizing breaks in between. That's how we have to test the learning. Learning was inferred in terms of the retention tests and slight permanent learning in the transfer test as well, which conferred that learning had taken place, because transfer tests, with it being at a different condition, did show a lower value than the first block. Practice allowed for learning to occur. We could see that throughout our practice that numbers got lower and that our learning was increased. Practice was also measured while analyzing the performance curves in our figures. So figure 1 and 2, you can see the performance curves for both the CE and VE, and we were able to measure that the constant error was measuring accuracy while the VE was measuring more of the consistency. And you can see with our performance curves that accuracy and consistency did improve with both practice and the retention test and transfer test, but accuracy was a little bit more consistent, and consistency had a lot more variability in their performance curve. So accuracy was a better indicator of the learning to be inferred, which usually happens with the retention test because it's under the same condition that you practiced in. Overall, we did see and can infer learning happened by using retention and transfer tests and by using performance curves while measuring practice. Okay, thank you.